I'm Ben with Furble, and we're starting this channel because, well, we got this new puppy. We've had Bandit here for a long time. You can pan down to him. But he's like our old man, and this is going to be our new dog. We're naming her Furble as well. It's kind of a whole, I don't know, we're trying to make like a whole lifestyle where we teach people how to, not really like obedient train their animals, but how to have like a good dog inside everyday life. That's kind of the goal of Furble. So we're going to be releasing an app here in the next, I don't know, year or so, trying to write a book, and then trying to document things here on the channel. She's very adorable, and so we were thinking that we could show you how we do these initial trainings. We got her, excuse me, we got her actually yesterday, and so today is her second day of training, and you'll be able to see like the progress that she's had with just those couple of days. She's very food motivated, so I guess the first thing I want to touch on with a new puppy is you have to figure out a way excuse me, you have to figure out a way to reward that puppy. And so with dogs, with animals, generally there's like 3 different primary reinforcers. So there's food, which is by far the easiest thing to do. There's praise, and then the last thing is going to be like a prey drive. And so, you know, some Labradors and some Retrievers and things like that, you can actually train them via, you know, fetch or hunting or things like that, fetching ducks. But for her, because she's so food motivated, we can just use food. It's much simpler. The first step when you start training a dog is you want to take those primary reinforcers and you want to build upon, like we call them secondary reinforcers. So a primary reinforcer is like naturally beneficial or rewarding for a dog, whereas a secondary reinforcer, you have to build that association with the primary reinforcer. And so the clicker here is a great way to have like a secondary reinforcer, which is like, at this point in time, you are doing what I want you to do. And when I click this, when she's doing a good behavior, she's going to start doing that behavior more and more frequently because it's associated with the primary reinforcer, which is food. So she's a little bit sleepy right now, but as soon as we start training, she's going to wake up. So before I start, the one last thing that I want to mention is like actually giving the command. So because we've only had her for a couple of days, I'm not going to be saying any command words right now. I might say, you know, the word for sit. But I do that only when I'm very, very confident that she's going to follow through with that behavior. That's very key that a lot of people don't do. If you want your dog to consistently listen to you, only say the command word once you are very, very confident that they're actually going to obey your command. So you notice here, I'm not going to say the command word, I'm just going to get her into the sit position, and then I will click and I will reward that. And I'm also trying to bring in or build in like a built-in stay command, and so I like to add a release word, and so you'll see me get her position, click to mark that behavior, and then release her from that. And I'm going to be giving her a reward when I click and also when I release her. And I'll do the same thing with Bandit. One thing to know about Bandit, he's a little bit deaf, so he doesn't listen as well as he used to, but I'll use hand commands with him, and I can kind of use body language to communicate the same things. But it is much more difficult if you have a deaf dog. So here, I'm just going to get her around. So I click, reward, okay. And then I have that release word and I reward her again. For the reward, I'm just using some sliced up turkey. It's really low fat, the dogs love it. You can give them a lot of it, and I just do little tiny squares essentially. Okay. So we started this the other day, and she was very, very good about getting into position. So now I'm confident that I can get her into that sit position. Now Bandit wants to play. So now what I can do, because I'm, let's say 90% confident that you can get her into the correct position, I can start associating like a command with that. So me personally, I like to use rump for like sit, because like the main reason is like everyone when they come to see your dog, they ask it to sit, 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 sit. And then you start to, like starts to become desensitized to the dog. Hey guys, sorry about that. We're still trying to figure out, I guess, how to film everything. And you know, it's kind of an interesting situation right here, but we want to like bring you guys into our home so you can see like real life experiences, how I'm going to raise my dog and how I can train my dog to be a good dog. We don't want this to be like overly produced anything, so we're going to get better over time, and we appreciate you guys' patience, but we'll pick up where we left off, which is essentially trying to introduce the command word when I get her to sit down. So I know she's going to sit. Rump. Good. Okay. And so right there, I was able to like associate the command word, and so now if I can do that consistently, then the dogs are going to, like, you're no longer going to have to use the clicker, you're no longer going to have to use a reward. You can just say the command word and like slowly wean them off of the clicker and the reward. Whoa. Yeah, you're such a good girl. So like right here, I could say, you know, rump, and then click and give her the reward, but then she wouldn't associate the command word with obeying that command. So what I like to do with her, and I'll do it with Bandit really quick because I don't want to leave him out. Rump. Oh boy. Okay. And you'll see when I say okay and I give the release word, I'm actually like backing up a little bit. That's to encourage the dog to get up, right? Because you want them to, once again, it's all about association. So I want to associate the release word, which is okay, with them breaking behavior then. And over time, what you can do is like I get her to sit down. Sorry, Bandit's a very vocal dog. But I can get her to sit down and I can slowly extend that time period. Let's move over here so you can actually see her. Come on. No? Good boy, stay. So you can slowly extend that time period and you're essentially teaching your dog how to stay. No. And so right here, this is a good example of like, we call it like the no reward marker. Once again, Bandit's like 12 years old, so my expectations of him like aren't as high. I'm gonna be much more like strict with her. But what you can do with the no reward marker is you can essentially associate the word no with, it's called a negative punishment, but you remove all attention, you remove his chance of getting the reward, and that's going to build like a negative association with, you know, him breaking behavior inside this. He's not going to get a reward because he broke behavior. So I'll just sprinkle in little things like that. Bro, good boy. Okay. All right. Now I like to just have like 2 pieces of reward in my hand at once. Go, Bandit, you're huge, dude. Get in the way. Over here. All right. Crump. Good girl. Now I can extend it a little bit more. Okay. You missed it, girl. It's right here. She's so food motivated though. Oh, she just wants to bite my finger. The reward's right there on the ground, dude. Yeah, you're a good boy, Bandit. You're not gonna bite my finger. But it's so much nicer when your dog is like very food motivated, because you can see like her motivation to do this training is like much higher. Whereas like I have a Great Pyrenees back on my mom's ranch. He does not give a crap about food, and so training him to do anything is much more difficult because of that. There's still ways, it's just much more difficult. Rump. Good girl. So I can wait a little bit. Okay. You can already see that she's starting to build that association with the release word and break and pose. So training like this is more like, with her, it depends on the dog. Some dogs lose concentration after, 5-10 minutes, like Bandit. Other dogs, you can do it for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and it's better to do like multiple shorter sessions a day, like 4 20-minute sessions, instead of like, one 1-hour session or something like that. It's gonna be much more effective for them retaining all the information. Next thing I'll show you is so I've showed you the sit command essentially. You're just gonna lure them, that's what this technique is called, where you're gonna try to lure them into place, slowly build that association. When she came here yesterday, she's always like very smart. Not all dogs get it this quickly. And so what you can do if your dog is having a little bit of difficulties is you can just try to lure them into place. Once again, don't say the command, because you only want to say that when you're confident that they're going to obey you. But kind of lure them into place. You mark that behavior with the clicker, and then you can give them a reward. Once you're confident, then you can start introducing the command. So I'm going to teach her how to get it down. I like to use the word plats, but I'm not going to introduce that word quite yet, because she's a little bit inconsistent with down. Hey, good girl. So at this point, you can just put your hand down between her paws. Good. And she did break pose right there, which is like not ideal. I'd rather have her stay down than me release her, but she did like fulfill the command. And so like you're gonna try to get more and more strict about what the criteria is for actually giving her the reward over time. But right now, she just learned how to do this, so I'm gonna give her a little bit more leniency. Good. So I'm gonna keep down. Okay. Okay. Good. Very vocal dog. What I love about Rottweilers is like extremely vocal. They'll like snort, they'll fart, they'll do all these different things. So you can see here, she gets a kind of a weird, okay. She gets kind of a weird position where she like rolls onto her left paw. I'm not really sure, like that's probably just like a natural behavior for her. So what I've started to do is like move the treat over to the, I guess it's the right side of her head, and that kind of causes her to straighten out that left paw of hers. Like you just want to, like that's perfect. Okay. You just want to try to build the association with what you actually want her to do. Because if I start clicking and rewarding it when she's in like a weird lay down position, she's going to start doing that more and more. You can see, like, I can start building it. Like, I'm not going to reward that because she's on like her side. And so I'm going to try to only reward it when she's in like the proper down position. I'm going to get her up again. Good. So she broke pose again early. So that's one thing we're going to have to watch out for. So I'm going to try to release her very quickly. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to try to release her really quickly because she has a tendency to just get up immediately after I give her the reward. But ideally, I never want her to break a pose or a behavior unless I give that release word. So I'm going to start saying that release word much quicker. This is a good down position. Okay. So you can see there's a few different ways that you can get her into position. There's like luring, which is probably the most common technique. Like technically, you should probably do like targeting instead of like having the treat in your hand. But this works just as well. And then there's like essentially spontaneously catching her in that position. So if you notice your dog sitting throughout the day, you know, you can click, give them the reward, laying down, click, give them the reward. I don't really like the position she's in, so I'm gonna see if I can change it. See, she likes to roll on that left side. Good. Okay, okay. So you can see I just kind of like manipulated my hand until she kind of got into the better position. Yeah, but she's very good at sit down, which is really cool. She's very smart. I love Rottweilers. Okay. Alright, well I think that's enough for like our first lesson, getting your dog in position. Like as a quick recap, primary reinforcers, secondary reinforcers. You know, never use the command word until you're very confident that you can get your dog in a position. You can get your dog in a position via luring, spontaneously catching in that position. There's something called like physical manipulation, but I don't really like to do that as much. It doesn't seem as effective to me. But let me know what you guys think. If you have any suggestions on what different tricks we'll train her. And we'll just try to, I guess, include you guys inside the rearing process so you can see how I raised my dog, how I raised a very obedient, very sweet 12-year-old Rottweiler, and hopefully you guys will be able to do the same.